What are the top 5 decks in Yu-Gi-Oh right now? YCS Costa Rica and the events that happened were definitely crazy, and today I'm going to be giving you the aftermath of everything that happened, talking about the strongest decks in Yu-Gi-Oh. My guy, if you want to be the best, you might want to know what these are. My friend, even if you don't want to play these decks, you still need to learn how to beat them. My brother in Christ, if you stick around to the end of the video, I'll also be telling you some key factors on why these decks are so strong, and you can let me know about some other decks that may fit the criteria. Let's go ahead and jump on in. All right, Top G, it's time we start to talk about them. I think the most important thing about the Yu-Gi-Oh meta is figuring out what the big 3 are. The 3 most powerful Yu-Gi-Oh decks in the format, and then the other 2 that shape around them. Typically in Yu-Gi-Oh, there are 3 big strategies that complement one another. One beats one, which beats the other, which then beats the first. Almost like a rock, paper, scissors format. But as you should already know, Yu-Gi-Oh is a little bit more intricate than that. This is the basis of how the format is played and how other decks are able to interact with those 3 decks. So of course, we're gonna go ahead and address the elephant in the room, Snake Eyes Fire King. I've talked about this deck in 2 different ways, as a pure build and as a Fire King build, but for this video, I'm going to combine them in one slot. And it's mainly because the deck can do so many things, but they pretty much do the exact same thing. Your Snake Eyes engine allows you to be able to combo for almost infinite. Snake Eyes Ash is the deck's key card because not only does it search any level 1 fire monster, it also allows you to be able to summon the big boss in Floowandereeze. Floowandereeze is an excellent piece of disruption, getting rid of your opponent's cards, but also can set up plays for you by placing monsters into your spell and trap card zone to special summon on your side of the field during your opponent's turn. Monsters like IP Masquerader and Formula Synchron. And because of Phantom Nightmare, powerful cards like Promethean Princess and Snake Eyes Populace have boosted both of this deck's power immensely. While the Fire King version is a little bit more centralized into using the Snake Eyes cards as bait, forcing you to use interruptions and then going into its Fire King line to be able to establish a board, the Snake Eyes version is built on being able to summon powerful Synchro and Link monsters and gain plus advantage over their cards. This is simply one of the most powerful decks in Yu-Gi-Oh because of its versatility and its ease to be able to special summon a ton of monsters to the side of the field. But it does have a core weakness, and that's where Voiceless Voice, the second best deck, comes in. Voiceless Voice is actually pretty good at countering Fire King. Voiceless Voice is so incredibly powerful is because of how many disruptive cards you can fit into your deck to be able to keep up with Fire Kings. The engine is already propped up with so many 1-card pieces that can do multiple things, like Pre-Preparation of Rites being able to get a ritual spell and monster, and Saphira allowing you to be able to search a card and dump. This means that it is ridiculously easy to fit cards in like Super Polymerization to be able to break your opponent's board, especially since the deck isn't reliant on an extra deck, but also pivot to cards like Nadir Servant to search out Dogmatica Maximus, which eventually allows you to be able to summon monsters like El Shaddai Winda, which is one of the weaknesses of the Fire King or the Snake Eyes strategy, preventing them from summoning multiple monsters in a turn. Bro, I'm just trying to figure out really quick, Voiceless Voice, but it don't got a voice. What? I think when it comes to Voiceless Voice, a lot of people need to believe the hype. This is a strategy that will only get stronger in time when the new Legacy of Destruction set comes out, and since it is a ritual deck, there's always ways to look for secret support that we haven't found out just yet. Branded is incredibly good at being able to check the Fire King strategy with cards like Mirror Jade, but also still has the ability to combat against Voiceless Voice and not lose to really silly cards. It's a deck that's almost immune to hand traps, except Ash Blossom, and still has some of the most terrifying combos in the game, like being able to summon Gimmick Puppet Nightmare on your opponent's side of the field, preventing them from summoning for the duration of the turn. What Branded also has that most topping strategies do not have is variance. Being able to change your deck depending on the situation can always keep your opponent guessing. And just recently, a Branded Yubel deck topped, and it was kind of crazy, using the power of Yubel to fuse away your opponent's monsters or force your opponent into attacking to them, while also doing the normal things that Branded does. This actually inspired me to put my own personal deck list on these particular strategies on my Patreon as a special thank you for helping me pay my editors. players. Now, the different thing about this Yu-Gi-Oh format than others is that typically we have a triangle format where one deck beats the other and then the other deck beats the first, but this time around it's more so of decks that can compete against the Snake Eyes engine and then decks that can also compete against each other fairly well. Some would say that this is the closest that we've had towards a tier 0 format in a while, and I think that it is meta warping to have one deck have most of the control, but maybe not a tier 0 format. I want to know what you guys think about that. And with those decks being considered the top 3 decks, technically 4 if you separate Snake Eyes and Fire King as 2 different decks, I'm going to give you 2 more amazing strategies that are considered ultimate contenders and can compete. The best part about this is that statistically, these are the best decks in Yu-Gi-Oh, but I'm always excited to hear what you have to say about some other strategies that you've been having success with. Kashtira is easily one of my favorite decks right now because it's so good at being able to counter the top Yu-Gi-Oh decks. Of course, there's always Dimension Shifter that could be used, which is sometimes how the game has to roll, but even beside that, Kashtira is just a really good deck. And the biggest reason why is because some of the top Yu-Gi-Oh decks in the game are incredibly fragile when it comes to their extra deck. Using cards like Kashtira Unicorn to be able to permanently get rid of that monster prevents a lot of decks from being able to progress forward. And Kashtira Fenrir has been known as one of the most dangerous cards in the game. This is a deck that can continuously bring back Kashtira Fenrir at any given time. But I think one of the most secret things about this deck is that how it can manipulate the graveyard outside of Dimension Shifter. One of the most powerful cards in the deck is Kashtira Birth. It is your recursion engine, but more importantly, against decks like Branded, Snake Eyes, and even Voiceless Voice, it can banish their cards in their graveyard face down, permanently removing the threat. Kashtira has been consistently topping events over the course of the format, and even in YCS Costa Rica was the 4th most represented deck. So I think it goes to say that Kashtira should belong on here, and just like Branded, it can come in different variants. The pure Kashtira variant has been the most successful, but then there's the Decode Talker Heat Soul variant that's really good at being able to draw cards. There's even the Scareclaw Kashtira that I did not too long ago and went undefeated with. It just proves how powerful this Yu-Gi-Oh strategy is in the right player's hands. Now, I did a ton of research to get to this last slot, and I think that there's actually some other strategies that are really good against the meta. I really want to hear what you guys have to say because this isn't a definitive list. I think that the format is still way too fresh to count it as a tier 0 format, and the hopium in me makes me believe that maybe it's just a lot of people riding on the Fire King Snake Eyes train. But the last strategy I think that is really good right now is easily Floowandereeze. I feel bad for saying this. It's mainly because if you're a Floowandereeze player, you probably don't have friends, but that can work to your advantage. You may have a lot of time to playtest with your okay. But in all seriousness, Floowandereeze is incredibly powerful for almost the exact same reasons that Kashtira are. Dimension Shifter is a card that this deck is immediately unfazed by, and it can still play really powerful hand traps to be able to slow your opponents down, or it can go a different route. What I've seen to be incredibly effective for Floowandereeze players is that they've been playing cards like Triple Tactics Thrust to be able to search evenly matched, which is incredibly good against some of the best decks. And also because hand traps are prevalent in this format, they've been using that same Triple Tactics Thrust to set Harpy's Featherstorm, which is really good against everything in the meta. If you just so happen to play an effect monster reliant deck, Harpy's Featherstorm can really ruin your deck's day. And it's already bad enough the deck naturally plays counter cards to the meta like Floowandereeze Impin and can stop the cards that you would draw to be able to out them with Mist Valley Apex Avian. I think that this deck can be incredibly good in certain circumstances. And let's also not forget that Floowandereeze can actually search DD Crow by normal summoning Rapina. That is really good against a lot of the top Yu-Gi-Oh decks, and because of Phantom Nightmare, they did get new support. One of the biggest problems at times for Floowandereeze is consistency, but Swallow's Cowrie allows you to be able to tribute a Winged Beast monster to add a Winged Beast monster with the same level from your deck to your hand. This not only gives you 6 copies of Floowandereeze at Vindity Adventure, it allows you to be able to dodge cards like Infinite Impermanence a lot easier, while also searching that Rapina or that Eaglin when you need it. And that is all that I have for the top 5 Yu-Gi-Oh decks post Costa Rica and the regional events that happened alike. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to check out some other amazing videos and watch those ads. It really supports the channel. Anyways, I hope you're having an amazing day, and I'll catch you on the next video.